Welcome back, everybody. This is the Steel City Blitz Steelers podcast presented by DEK Roofing Incorporated of South Florida. And I'm Steel Dad. I'm the host of this clown show. We have Ian, Ellie, and Ben tonight, and it's Ellie's birthday, so we wanted to make sure we had her on. So,
thank you.
And yes, of course, and to even add to the comedic hijinks for a few minutes, her parents are with her as well, and so this could get just absolutely out of control.
Yes.
But what the hell? What better way to end 2020 than something like this? So, Ellie, happy birthday, and how are you doing tonight?
We're doing very good, thank you. Just driving back from dinner, so I'm
Very
not driving,
good.
luckily, so I'm all good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I didn't want you to be focused on this and on the road at the same time. So if you're not driving, then fantastic.
Yeah.
Like I said, we're not going to keep you long, but we wanted to make sure we got your thoughts on the game, and also we want to get a thought on your prediction for the Browns game as well, with all the different things going on there. But you're one of the most positive Steelers fans out there, and even you were cracking a little bit on Sunday as the Steelers fell behind. It was 24-7.
Yeah.
How were you doing? Were you ready to just go watch something on Netflix? I mean, what was your state of mind?
I definitely didn't. I didn't want to leave them. I didn't want to leave them behind because I've got to watch. It's like watching, when you come by on a car accident, you can't help but stare.
Absolutely. Yes.
That's kind of how that first half felt. I was watching in utter horror, but I couldn't help myself but watch. I think I said on Twitter, I challenged everybody in the during halftime to find one positive thing.
You did.
And I got over 100 people found something positive about that team at halftime. So that kind of helped me through those painstaking first two quarters.
That's incredible. I saw your tweet, but I didn't realize you had that many positive replies. Yep. That's really good for Steeler Nation in a bad situation like that.
Some were sarcastic. Some were like,
sure.
I'm positive this game is almost over. I'm positive that we will be one and done in the playoffs. And I'm like, okay, well, I tried.
You did. And
I didn't have anything nice to say, so I posted pictures of my dog.
You did. That was
all I could do. I was like, I have nothing positive to say here. I got pictures of my dog that were really nice from yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go.
Well, and
my
that's
daughter
just how
my daughter had a giant poop, and cleaning that up was more pleasant than watching that first half. But I still stuck through it.
Wow. Yeah,
she's
go ahead,
6
Ellie.
months old. It is what it is.
True. I'm sorry. Finish your thought, Ellie.
So yeah, I was definitely feeling. I was looking at the potential of what would it be like if the Browns won the North. What would our seeding be? That kind of stuff. I mean, you have to look at it from. If you look at it from a smart fan's perspective. Mm-hmm. What happened on Sunday was never supposed to happen. We weren't supposed to win that game. And more importantly, they were certainly not supposed to lose that game against the Jets.
Right.
So
right.
On paper, that was the exact opposite of what I think most people, even the most optimistic fan, expected to happen. I even remember, and it stuck in my head, it still sticks to my head now. I can't remember which of the commentators said it. But right before kickoff, in going into the second half of the game, one of them said, the Steelers have an almost impossible, I can't remember the exact word, but they almost have an impossible position to try and get back into this game.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing that and thinking, you know what? If we lose again, I can only hope that we just have some kind of miracle in the playoffs. That's how I was feeling up until the Juju touchdown, because even the Deontay touchdown felt a little bit like a fluke. The Juju touchdown to me told me that DJ touchdown was not a fluke, that there was potential in this offense.
It's funny because I think there were people that felt the same way you did, that oh my God, Ben threw a deep ball. Oh my God, it was a great throw. Oh my God, DJ caught it. Okay, well, all right, it's 24-14. I think that's what it made the score, right? And
Yeah, it did.
and so I think people felt a lot of how you were feeling at that point. But yeah, Ebron and of course Juju there, and so even then though we had to hang on defensively.
Yes.
Were you still kind of sensing? Were you still seeing what you mentioned a minute ago about how the Browns perhaps winning the North and all the ugliness of what that looks like?
Absolutely, because I feel like multiple games now in this season, we have come down to this point where we've given too much time on the clock and we've handed the ball back over. And I was thinking to myself, like, there's only so many times that our defense can cover our ass on this. And eventually this is going to come around and bite us. And I thought this was the game, because not that I think Phillip Rivers is is the best quarterback comparatively to other games that we've ended up down to the wire, but it just takes one good throw or one good run and we would have lost that game. And so I was disappointed, to be honest, even though I was so over the moon excited about the outcome of the game. I was disappointed that once again it required a defensive miracle to finish the game off. I feel that has happened at least 3, if not 4 times this season.
Well, it has.
That's kind of the strength of this defense, is that generally speaking, when they need to make a big play, they can do it. They are that talented a group. Now, we had a few weeks where we had a lot of issues with linebacker depth and some issues creating plays, and then Bud went down and it got even harder. But the core of that group is still there, and that mentality is still there. Cam talked about that today. It's like, okay, well, we're only down by 14. We can do this. Okay, we're only down by, 7. We can do this. We're only down by 3. We can do this. It was that kind of a thought process. 3 is nothing. We can do this. We can make this happen. And they just kept charging themselves up from halftime on. And I think that mental focus is what carries them late in games and helps them create opportunities like that.
And I just want to add something else, too. That was a great point about the Deontay touchdown feeling empty. And I think it kind of particularly felt empty because almost the same thing happened the week prior against Cincinnati, that they came out after halftime. Ben suddenly looked a little bit better. He threw a beautiful deep ball to Deontay Johnson for a touchdown, almost the same route, a go route right down the right sideline. But then we never did anything else after that. So that Deontay touchdown cut it to a 10-point game against Cincinnati. And I guess we got it to 7 with a Benny Snell touchdown in the fourth quarter in that game, but never really got within striking distance. But in this one, not only did we get that touchdown, but then we got a defensive stop and another touchdown, and we were able to continue building on it. And I think also that Deontay touchdown followed that the 4 and out at the goal line, or
true.
So that we still had some lingering negative feelings on the getting stuffed 4 times from the 1 yard line.
That was horrible.
Yeah.
Really bad.
So, Ellie, before we let you go there and enjoy the rest of your birthday, what do you think about this week with Cleveland? Of course, Ben is going to be standing on the sidelines with a headset on. Mason Rudolph will be the quarterback. The Browns apparently now have more COVID issues. What do you think happens on Sunday?
I was actually talking to a friend who lives in Ohio who's a Browns fan. And I was saying that I do feel that the Jets game was an anomaly for them. I don't think that the Browns team that they have right now shouldn't have gone down the way it did. They did have almost their entire wide receiver core was out with close contact. So I don't think that would have ordinarily happened. That being said, it wasn't, Baker was making enough mistakes. True. So I would say if they're back to full strength, I'm not sure who of their team has COVID.
They have 10 guys on the list right now, total.
Are they, in offensively speaking?
Offensively speaking, I don't know of any starters, but there are 2 defensive starters right now that are out.
Okay.
And at least one of them will not be available Sunday. But more importantly, it seems as though they may be in the middle of an outbreak. So there may be more positives between now and Sunday, and their facility is closed. They can't practice.
No.
So is there
virtual?
Is there a chance that the game may not even go ahead?
To this point, the NFL has not done that.
In my opinion, the Browns are shit out of luck. I'm just going to be blunt. They are. The NFL has already said they are not going to postpone games for competitive reasons. They're only going to do so if there are medical reasons, and that would mean basically that the Browns couldn't field enough players. They can field enough players, so they're going to make them play. Unless you are good enough at lying and manipulation, unless you are as good as John Harbaugh and Steve Bisciotti, let's not forget the Ravens owner. Unless you're that good at manipulation and lying, you are not going to get a postponement. And I don't think the Browns are.
I would say
I don't even know if they would try, to be honest with you. I don't think that they would try.
I don't think so either. I think this game does go ahead. I'm fairly confident anyway. I would say if they don't lose any starters, they have a lot to play for.
They do.
They're playing against Mason Rudolph, which, embarrassing for them. They have beef with. I would say that it would be a tough game. And I would rather we didn't lose anyone to injury and we continue to be first place in the North and give them a win and they make it into the playoffs. Yep, that sucks, but it's likely, it happens. Maybe they'll be one and done. I would say if we win, it will be a very close game. I don't see us blowing them out with them only being able to score 7 points like they did earlier in the season, because you can't deny that they have improved this season. Like I said, I think the Jets game was an anomaly. So a close game is what I would predict. And I'm going to be honest, I'm going to predict, even with Mason, I don't know how much you want to blame Ben for the way the games have been starting, at least in the first half of these games recently. I think even with Mason, we're going to have maybe another scoreless first quarter, or at least not many points scored in the first half of the game. I just feel that that's something that's becoming a little bit of almost like a tradition for us at this point. So I don't see it being a very high scoring game. I'd be surprised if we scored more than what we did on Sunday.
So do you, just to put you on the spot here, do you like the Browns to win a close one then?
No, I like the Steelers to win.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
I'm just making sure.
Defensively, I think that if we don't rest our best, I really would be surprised if we couldn't give Baker Mayfield a run for his money. Offensively speaking, I don't expect us to perform miracles, especially if we do rest other people. I'm not sure who you would rest from that, because can't really think of anybody who's really a vet other than Ben and Big Al.
I think Pouncey, DeCastro, perhaps, but you can't rest everybody, unfortunately. But
no.
So okay, all right, then we'll write you down for a close Steelers victory then.
Yeah, sure.
And and then I'll get the predictions from the guys towards the end of the show. But hey, thanks for jumping on. Go enjoy the rest of your birthday, and tell your parents thank you for letting us steal you for a few minutes. And
sorry if you could hear them in the background. They were just
they were great. No, they're
fine.
No big deal.
No. My mom's had a few. She's having a really good evening. I think it's her birthday, actually. So, yeah.
Well, excellent. We will talk to you very, very soon, Ellie. So have a good rest of your birthday.
Okay, bye, guys.
Good night.
All right. So, gentlemen, we'll pick up where we usually do here and just dive into this. Guys, it was 24/7. We had just turned the ball over on downs because we could not get a freaking yard to get in the end zone. The Colts ran a really interesting play, quite frankly. On third down, they threw the ball in their own end zone and came out about 6-7 yards and punted. And that's when Ben hit Johnson on the next play.
I was just about to tweet after that pass happened that Phillip Rivers had more completions in our end zone than Ben Roethlisberger did, but I decided not to just because I didn't want to. And honestly, I didn't tweet it because I didn't want to log on to Twitter and see what everyone else was tweeting at that point because I was so sick after what happened to the 4 plays at the goal line.
So Ian, go ahead and what was your overall thought? What was the catalyst to this comeback? I mean, obviously Ben looked better, the offensive line. I mean, there's a lot of things, but what really stood out to you as you were watching this thing unfold?
What really stood out was Ben started pushing the ball down the field. We talked about this many times before on the podcast that, when all you're doing is those shallow crossers, the, short comeback routes, all that stuff, the safety starts sneaking up. You get a lot of guys in the box, which is why you can't run the ball. And, your guys don't have a chance to make any yards after the catch either because they're just getting tackled right on the spot. But, all of a sudden start pushing the ball down the field and teams playing cover one against you. There's a lot of open space, 10 plus yards down the field. And, it really opened things up. It made the corners back off a little bit, and Ben just kept pushing it and kept finding the open guys. And whether or not that was Ben drawing up plays in the dirt or calling the right hot routes, or Randy Fiechner suddenly not becoming blind, I don't know. I saw Ben today kind of had to backtrack. He was like, "Oh no, Randy's good. Randy's good." I thought he got some criticism because people were saying that I was drawing these plays up, but Randy knows what he's doing, so whatever. Ben's defending his guy, but really to the point that Ellie made earlier, I really didn't feel like we were back in the game until the Ebron touchdown. Like Deontay's touchdown did feel kind of empty to me. I was like, okay, we did this last week, they've been all over us. We'll see what happens, right? Because if you look at how the second half went, the Colts got the ball to start, came out and kicked a field goal. Then we drove it all the way down the field. It's like, okay, we drove, got the ball in Claypool's hands, which good things happen when he touches the ball. We should keep doing that. I don't know why we got away from that the last 4 weeks. And then we got stuffed on the goal line, so they were backed up. That wasn't really a normal offensive drive for them. So after we scored, it was like, okay, they're going to have another normal offensive drive. Let's see what we can do. Well, Avery Williamson got a sack, which he finally started playing like,
very statistically productive game.
He looks more comfortable.
Yes.
Yes. I would say that too.
I'll say he started playing more like the guy we thought we were getting. He's still limited in some capacities in pass coverage, but you're right. He's just reacting to what he's seeing, and there's less processing that he's doing. He's not sitting there thinking, he's just reacting. But one thing I mentioned last week on the podcast was the difference in the Colts first and second halves this year. And I actually looked up the numbers. So this is including this past week's game, but season long, Phillip Rivers in the first half, 9 yards per attempt, 117 passer rating, 18 touchdowns. In the second half, 6.3 yards per attempt, so almost 3 yards less, 75 passer rating. So, 117 to 75, that's a big drop, and only 5 touchdowns. In total, the Colts offense has scored 28 first half touchdowns and only 13 second half touchdowns this year. Weird. And so, you take out the 3 touchdowns they scored against us all in the first half, that's still a 25 to 13 differential. So I mentioned it last week on the podcast that, the Colts had been a good first half team, but kind of got into a shell in the second half. And we saw it happen again. They were running the ball great in the first half, and for some reason they decided to let Phillip Rivers throw the ball in the second half instead of just handing it off to Jonathan Taylor, who was killing us in the first half. So, a lot of it was the Steelers having success on offense and the defense showing up and playing well, but also, some credit to the Colts coaches for calling dumbass plays as well.
Well, I agree with you, and we were talking a little bit in the post game about the fact that they, I think they ran 19 times in the first half and only 9 in the second half, and but some of the defensive calls were quite questionable as well. But Ben, what were you seeing as this thing unraveled in Pittsburgh on Sunday?
Well, pretty much what Ian talked about. And, Ben was pushing the ball downfield, but you could see him walking up to the line and yelling at his receivers and changing the play at the line.
Mm-hmm.
It was evident that he was kind of making shit up as he went along. And he was also pointing at guys. And generally speaking, when Ben is pointing at someone, he's telling them what route to run. So not only does the receiver know what route he's supposed to run, now the defense knows. And it's still working. And, it's that kind of thought process. And it did work because they started stepping back on their heels and waiting. Mm-hmm. Where in the first half, the Colts defense was coming straight at us. They were reading their keys pre-snap, coming right at our offense. And about, I'd say 85 to 90% of the time, they were right. They guessed right based upon the pre-snap formations and motions. They guessed right, and they played it right off the bat, and they played a great half.
Mm-hmm.
The tide turned, obviously, in the second half because Ben was doing a bunch of stuff they weren't expecting. But then you need to look at the other side, too.
Yep.
Yes, the Colts came out, drove the field, got a field goal. First series. But then after that, they had a 3-and-out, another 3-and-out, 5-and-out, 3 plays and an interception. You look at that, if you look at the drive chart for the second half, most of it was 3-and-outs.
Mm-hmm.
Their last drive was 11 yards, and 11 plays, and it was a fairly long drive, but they were in a hurry up. They got 11 snaps off, and they got shut down on downs. That was huge. That stand at the end of the game. The Steelers defense really stood up in the second half and started playing better. Most importantly,
and let's not forget, just jumping in there though, let's not forget that would have been a 5-and-out if Steven Nelson hadn't been flagged for a questionable pass interference call on a play that negated his interception.
I thought there was definitely contact there. There was illegal contact, okay, but he also got face masked on that play, and it was not called.
Mm-hmm.
So it should have, in my mind, it should have been offsetting. It wouldn't have mattered. They would have replayed the down.
Right.
But calling him for DPI in that situation and ignoring the fact that T.Y. Hilton grabbed his face mask and turned his head away from him, I'm like, okay, well, that, you go back to the spot of the original snap and you play, it's no play. Play over again. Exactly. But I kind of lost my train of thought when Ian jumped in.
Sorry.
All right.
Jerk.
Second half.
Yeah.
The thing that really jumps out from the Steelers defense from the first half to the second is they tackled much better.
In
the first half, they missed tackles left and right.
Yep.
All over the place. In particular, Vince Williams, who is a really sure tackler. I was really excited that he was going to be there because Taylor is a tough runner. And I knew we were going to have some tough sledding with him coming out of the backfield because he just doesn't go down. And he was missing tackles on Taylor all over the place. In the second half, that defense tackled much better, so much better. There was determination there. They were not taking any crap. Mike Hilton was grabbing guys by the ankle and not letting go.
Literally.
It was that kind of effort where guys were just like, nope, I am not. It's not happening. The rest of the guys will get here and they'll take you down. And it was that kind of a mentality where one guy got on him and then he get hit 3 and 4 more times and he'd get dropped. Where in the first half, Taylor was breaking 3 and 4 and 5 tackles. It was embarrassing. So that's the biggest difference defensively from my standpoint. Those guys missed a ton of tackles in the first half. It was just like, whoa, where did this come from? What the heck is going on? And they could have gone back to the run, and maybe they should have. But honestly, at a certain point, it becomes a situation defined by momentum, and the Steelers' defense had it all. For almost the entirety of the second half, except for that first drive, they had all the momentum in the world.
And I think at the NFL level, and I suppose you can make this argument at the collegiate level as well, but I think what happens is when the opposing offense starts to put together a few things, even if they aren't scoring drives, but they're successful long drives. I think there's like this tendency amongst a lot of coaches to start thinking, oh man, we can't run the ball. I got to throw the ball. I'm going to have to score points. That other offense is just heating up, and that's kind of the feeling I had from the Colts and Frank Reich. I just had this feeling that they felt like, okay, they've pulled within, 24-14 here. I think we better score some points and not sit on the ball. And I, far be it from me. I'm not an NFL head coach, but it just seemed like that was part of their thinking as to why they abandoned.
Yeah, I thought when the Steelers got the second touchdown,
mm-hmm.
and it was 24-21 because the Steelers came out, first drive, got a touchdown. They're down by 10. Okay. They get another touchdown. Now they're down by 3. Now all of a sudden the pressure is on the Colts, and their last 2 drives were both 3-and-outs.
Yeah.
So now it starts to play games with your head. And you're like, whoa, wait a minute. Our last 2 drives were 3-and-outs, and these guys are driving the field now, and they're scoring on us. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's the point at where I think it flipped right there.
That's exactly where I was getting at too. I felt it too. And real quick before I move on, don't forget you are listening to the Steel City Blitz Steelers podcast presented by DEK Roofing Incorporated, serving Broward in the southern Palm Beach counties, whether it's commercial, residential, multifamily, or condos. Contact DEK Roofing at dekroofing.com. I
have one more thing.
Yeah, go ahead, Ian. Go ahead.
I think one other factor that made a big difference in this game that was distinctly noticeable was that this was the first time in a while we've faced a quarterback who was almost completely immobile. That there was zero threat of him running the ball and scrambling out of the pocket. We've faced a few quarterbacks. Ryan Finley beat us a few times with his feet, which was shocking to see happen. I mean, Josh Allen, we all know what he can do. The Ravens, whether it's Lamar Jackson or RG3, whoever's playing for them, we've faced some guys that are capable of making plays with their feet. I mean, even going back to Ryan Tannehill, to Carson Wentz, even Baker Mayfield in good times, Deshaun Watson, Daniel Jones. We faced a lot of quarterbacks this year that are capable of making plays outside the pocket and just, scrambling up the gut for yards too. This was really the first time that in a while we didn't have to worry about that at all. And it made a big difference in the pass rush. A lot of it was we were just sending 4 guys and dropping 7 and letting those 4 just wreak havoc. And it worked really, really well because Phillip Rivers is awful if you make him move off his spot and is really damn slow once he starts to have to move too.
Yeah, and Alex Highsmith didn't have a ton in the stat line, but
a ton of pressures.
Ton of pressures.
Of pressures. I'm going to kind of disagree with Ian, but not really. The thing you heard from Steelers players after the game was how much Rivers made them stop and think because of all of his damn adjustments. He was calling out their adjustments when they made them and countering them and making them think. So yes, Ian, you're right. They were just sending 4 guys and saying, wreak havoc in the backfield. We just want you to get to him. Just get to Rivers. You don't have
to worry about contain.
That was part of the reason the run worked so well in the first half, in my opinion, that and all the damn missed tackles. But, the outside linebackers weren't playing the run at all. They were just going straight at Rivers. I was like, okay, is this going to work? Is it not? But then all the linebackers to a man said, this guy made us stop and think and rethink and reconsider and reconsider. And that's how you get off your game mentally. It's when that guy gets in your head. So, physically he's not that threat, but from a mental standpoint, he's a good tactician. And they were making comparisons to Tom Brady.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I personally don't put him in Tom Brady's class.
No, I wouldn't go there either.
But I'm just repeating what these guys said.
Yeah. Well, I think the comparison is that the ability to diagnose, adjust, and then force you to adjust. And to me, I would put the difference at our guys were able to adjust to Phillip Rivers, whereas in many, many past instances, I don't think we had the time and the quickness to adjust to Tom Brady, if that makes sense. I think.
No, I agree with you. He would make 1 or 2 little adjustments, and a lot of it was just hand signals and looks, and and we couldn't see it coming, and boom, it worked. Where with Rivers, he was yelling stuff out. It was a little bit different. But again, conversely, the Colts defense couldn't adjust to Ben in the second half at all. They didn't know what the hell he was doing, and he was telling them what routes the receivers were running. So basically, he was going, I'm telling them what routes to run because I know what you're going to do when they run that route, and I know who's going to be open, and that's where I'm throwing the ball. And they still couldn't adjust to it. So, hey, kudos to Ben for making that work. You know what I'm saying?
And
he's a smart guy. There's a reason that he's going to be a Hall of Famer.
Absolutely. He's not – this is not his first rodeo.
No, by any stretch. What are you guys drinking tonight, by the way?
I have I had 3 fingers of Maker's Mark. That's what I started with. Ian?
I am drinking a Christmas beer from Evil Genius Brewery called Santa. I know him.
Evil Genius Brewery.
Yes, they're out of Philadelphia, and everything I've had from them has been great. I found them because they made a IPA called Han Shot First, and being the big Star Wars fan that I am, I was like, I gotta try this, and it was wonderful. And then they had a porter called like New Phone Who Dis, and then there was another like chocolate stout called I'll Have What She's Having, and I got a bunch of like mix and match. They're very creative. I got some like mix and match 6-packs, and everything I've ever had from them has been fantastic. So if you see a Evil Genius Brewery beer, highly recommended.
Probably won't drink it because the first thing I'll see is Philly, and I'll go, fuck that, not drinking it.
Yeah, I was turned off at the sound of Philly.
Last week I was drinking the Southern Tier 2X Christmas Ale, which behind the Great Lakes Christmas Ale.
So these Christmas beers, are they like 12% or what?
I think so. This one might be like 7 or 8.
Southern Tier is a good brewery. I've always enjoyed
Southern Tier is by far my favorite brewery. It is everything I've ever had from them has been great. Yes.
Well, I had 3 fingers of Basil Hayden, which was what I was drinking last week. It's gone. I drank it all. I'm working on my second Boneyard RPM IPA, which is absolutely delicious, and you guys probably can't get.
No, probably not. But I got to go down to my local emporium and start checking out some of these beers, though. What I do want to mention, though, is as I segue to this next question, I do want to give props to the offensive line, who was atrocious in the first half. They kept Ben Roethlisberger clean in the second half.
They did,
and that's your job. When you're down by 3 scores. Got to keep the quarterback clean if you got any shot of coming back, and they did. Now, the reason I mention that is because this is my question. Is this the Steelers' offense as we enter the playoffs? We're not going to see it Sunday, okay? We'll talk about Mason shortly. But is this what the Steelers' offense needs to be? Just say, hell with the running game. Ben, you know the offense. You know what personnel you got. Let's go. Ian, take that one first. What are we doing here with the offense?
No, you still have to run the ball. And
yes,
ideally, if James Conner takes this week off, he could be healthy going into the playoffs, which would be the first time we've had a starting running back healthy going into the playoffs since I think that year that we played Miami and Kansas City in back-to-back weeks, and Le'Veon Bell broke all the team rushing records. Yep. And then we went to New England for the AFC Championship game, and Bell got hurt on the second play. Was that 2016? Yep. I think it was
16. I think it was.
Yeah. So, and really even the years before that we made the playoffs, we played Fitzgerald Toussaint, we played Felix Jones, we've played a plethora of bad running backs in the playoffs just because we had so many injuries at that position. Even the years we had D'Angelo Williams, he got hurt before the playoffs.
That's right.
It was, we haven't had a healthy number one running back going into the playoffs in a while. Once in the last decade, if you want to look at it that way. Because once in the last decade, pretty much. So, I think that makes a difference having a fully healthy James Conner, and I think him having another week off. Kevin Dotson makes a big difference in there.
Huge.
He's a much better run blocker than Filer is. He's actually just much better offensive lineman.
Yeah, I think that ship has sailed.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think you have to run the ball somewhat. I also think Connor is probably your best blocking back in there on third downs to pick things up. That touchdown that Ben threw to Juju, Connor and Ebron double teamed an edge rusher and just sealed it up to give Ben enough time to make that throw to Juju, and that makes a big difference too.
I'd be crying if I were the Colts too.
Yes.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, yeah. I mean, you can't just throw the ball, but I think what you have to do is push the ball down the field continually. You push the ball down the field, that moves the safeties back, and that opens up the running game too.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. Okay, so let me play. I'm not saying you abandon the run by any stretch. In fact, when the Steelers did run the ball
in the second half, it
worked because they were able to throw the ball.
Because they only had 7 guys in the box.
Absolutely. So I guess let me be a little more specific. Do you think that when the playoffs come around here in another week or two, we might see Ben Roethlisberger more and a little bit more no huddle stuff, pushing the ball downfield, or do we revert back to this 3-yard passing game?
I really hope we see more of Ben Roethlisberger pushing the ball down the field. Between the numbers, intermediate throws,
right?
Crossers, slants, digs, easy. I mean, I don't want to say Ben can't throw outs. He still can.
Yes.
But and he can still throw deep. He's just not fantastic at it at this point. I still didn't see a guy on Sunday who was stepping into his throws, even his deep throws. A lot of the reason in the first half, I kept saying he's throwing the ball late. No. When I watched the film, he was throwing the ball on time for Ben. The problem was the ball took longer to get there. That's why from my perspective, watching it from the TV angle on Sunday, it looked like he was throwing it late because it was arriving behind as opposed to leading receivers. It was arriving behind them or short. And it was just like, yeah, okay, now I get what's going on. And it's the same thing we've been talking about for weeks. He's not stepping into his throws. I would say his back and his knee are both bothering him. I think it is absolutely imperative that they rested him this week. I am glad that they are.
Yep.
People that are insistent upon the fact that the Steelers should have gone all out and tried to get the second seed. Why?
There's
why?
It doesn't make any sense.
It makes no damn sense at all.
No.
If we go into the playoffs with a gimpy Ben Roethlisberger, we have no chance.
No.
None. Giving him a week off right now makes more sense than anything that Tomlin has done all year. Frankly.
And understand there's no bye week for a 2 seed. The 1 seed gets it.
Exactly.
That's it. So
the 2 seed has to win 3 games too.
Yep. That takes it out of the equation. If you play him on Sunday against the Browns and he gets hurt, do you really think you got a chance?
No, you're done.
Mason? You're done. Season's over. Okay. So
I'd rather play Duck or Dobbs.
Yeah. I mean, this is the right call. Sitting him is the right call. And so, Ben, let's just segue right to that. Mason Rudolph is going to get the start. This is going to be, other than a 3-play series in Dallas, we haven't seen Mason since last year. I mean, maybe the current Randy Fichtner offense benefits him because, he's become captain check down. And let's face it, all these throws are just 3 yards here, 3 yards there, 4 yards there. Maybe it benefits him.
That's not.
Well, you know what I mean.
Okay. I'm going to be frank. Ben has had guys open this year too.
Yep.
He's trying to get the ball out of his hands as quickly as possible. He's not holding it, and guys are getting open after he looks at the read. When he looks at it initially, they're not open. He moves to the next one, the next one, the next one. He needs to get the ball out of his hand right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's not going back I think what Ben used to do was he'd go through 4 reads, and then he'd go through the 4 reads again. and then
while running.
And then if he still didn't have a guy that he thought was open, they'd do the scramble drill, and they'd all just move around until they got open, and Ben would throw it. And all that off-script stuff that Ben used to do was what made Ben Ben. It was just like, God, how do you prepare for that? You can't.
Coordinators nuts.
Yep. Yeah. So and I'm not saying he's that guy anymore. I don't see Ben running around scrambling for his life.
No.
At this stage in his career. Maybe if he gets healthier, he'll be able to do some of that. But if he takes one bad hit, I would be concerned about what it was going to do to him at this stage of the game. So I'd rather he didn't. But back to Mason, because he's the guy who's actually going to play this week. I think that, a lot like, and I don't think the Steelers are going to make the same mistake. Do you remember the first game versus the Browns when the Browns players were all going, this one's for Miles, this one's for Miles?
Oh, yes.
They proceeded to go to Pittsburgh and get their asses kicked 38-7.
Yep.
Yeah, that one's for Miles. Good for you guys. I think that Mason in particular is going to have a chip on his shoulder this week, and he is going to be looking to make plays. I'm not saying he's going to be great because he's Mason. But I think he's going to have a chip on his shoulder and maybe do some things and take more chances than he normally does. And as captain checkdown, he's taking none. And that's been the problem, is that he's taking no chances. Defenses know he will take no chances. And so they go right at him.
Well,
I think that this week he's going to be a little more fearless, a little more angry, and, maybe the offense will generate 14 points.
Well, I mean, we knew that he had a rapport with James Washington coming out of Oklahoma State.
Yeah, but what's he done with it?
No. I'm just saying we knew that going in. I'm agreeing with you that the potential for him to maybe take a few shots is a little greater now, not just because of Washington, because now I got Claypool, who I know is able to go up and get the ball, or maybe at absolute worst create defensive pass interference calls. It would, in past years, I would have said the very blanket statement of, well, we're just going to set up the run here and run the ball, protect the quarterback, and make sure Mason doesn't lose the game for us. We can't run the ball, so he's going to have to make throws on Sunday. There's just no two ways about it.
I don't think that we can make a blanket statement and say we can't run the ball. The reason that we haven't been able to run the ball is the Ravens, frankly. Dean Wink Martindale is a very good defensive coordinator.
Yes, he is.
He put the blueprint out to beat the Steelers offense in the second game versus the Ravens this year, and everybody's been copying it ever since. And the way Ben beat it on Sunday was to throw over the box. And when he did, it opened up for the run.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
That is what Mason has to do. He's got to throw intermediate passes between the numbers and back the safeties off, back the nickel back off, so that we don't have 8 guys sitting in the box waiting to drop our running backs every 8 and 9 and 10, sometimes guys in the box waiting to drop our running back if there's a run play. That's been the challenge with running the ball. That, and yes, frankly, the offensive line is not playing very well. I put very little blame on the failures of the run game on the running backs or on Randy Fichtner. I got to be honest. I don't think the problem with the run game is Randy Fichtner. I think it's execution.
Yes.
Primarily, 90% based on the performance of the offensive line, which has been lackluster, and that's putting it nicely. The tackles in run blocking, the tackles have been absolutely horrible.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go.
The guards in the center have been a little better, in particular now with the addition of Dotson. We talked about that before when Ian was up. And Dotson is look out. Just get out of the way because he's going to just barrel you over. You probably shouldn't try and attack that because that kid's coming through. He is going to be a good offensive lineman for the Steelers for a long time. I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, we've got to have better run block play from the tackles. And yeah, I mean, Mason's got to loosen things up. And if he does that, we can have at least some success running the ball. You know, if the Steelers can average 4 yards a carry, that's all they got to do. 4 yards. It's respectable.
Yeah.
They can hang on to the ball. Take it. They can eat the clock. They can move the chains. And they can win this game.
Yeah, I what I don't want to see happen is Mason go out there and have a bunch of 3-and-outs. Our defense does not need that. We have to move the sticks. I couldn't agree more with that. Ian, I know you're jumping back in here. We're just talking a little bit about, you know, the decision, obviously the right one that all of us agree on, to sit Ben, get him some rest.
Absolutely. The people who thought he should play either weren't alive or weren't aware of what happened in 2008.
Yeah. I mean, it just,
I don't understand how you could forget that.
really Ian, would you like to detail that for us? Please do. Yes.
But basically, I just want to do the, you know, a prelogue, if you will. That's the wrong word. A preface here.
Prelogue, prologue.
We had an absolute lock of a Super Bowl contending team that year. We looked like a killer going into Week 16, and then Week 17. What happened, Ian?
Ben started the game against Cleveland, and Cleveland was well out of it. I mean, the only thing Cleveland had to play for that year was trying to get Jamal Lewis like over 1,000 rushing yards or some crap like that. Like they had nothing to play for, and Ben got knocked out and was laying on the Heinz Field turf for a long ass time and got carted off the field in a meaningless Week 17 game. Thankfully, he only had a concussion. And I mean, I'm not trying to make light of concussions.
I know. Yeah.
But thankfully, it wasn't anything worse than that. Because anytime someone gets carted off the field, it's awful. And also, thankfully, that year we had a bye. And so the bye week, if we had to play the first playoff week that year, there is no way he would have been back. Yeah. So thankfully we had
who hit him in that play?
I don't remember.
Defensive lineman, wasn't it? The interior guy. God, I can see him. I'll have to think about it.
I want to say it was no. I feel like it was Cameron Wembley, but I don't think it was.
I'll pull up a roster.
At any rate,
that was a big learning experience
carted off the field. Yes, and you know, thankfully we had a bye, and Ben was able to get better, and then we beat San Diego. Obviously, we beat the Ravens in the AFC Championship game, and then beat the Cardinals in the Super Bowl. But if we had to play the first weekend without Ben Roethlisberger, we were screwed that year.
Were you at that game, that Cleveland game, Ian?
Yes. Yeah.
What was going on in the crowd at that moment? I can only imagine.
it was dead silent. I mean, your season flashing before your eyes at that point in time. I mean, I think Byron Leftwich came in and finished the game, and the Steelers wound up winning 31-0 because the Browns were terrible. But they were like 4-12 that year or something. I mean, they were awful. But nevertheless, I mean, you know, you're thinking like, holy crap, like we have to go into the playoffs with Byron Leftwich starting at quarterback for us and not Ben Roethlisberger. And it was scary.
It worked out. Let's just leave it at that. Yeah.
It did, thankfully. But that is absolutely why you don't
play him.
You don't play him.
No. All right, guys, we're winding it down here. Prediction time, and obviously this is difficult because of Mason starting, and we don't yet know who else could be standing next to Ben Roethlisberger, or who might start or play, but not much. So it's very, very difficult to make a prediction on here. But Ben, go ahead. We'll start with you. If Ben is there, what did you check out to get a beer or something? All right. Well, Ian, apparently I'm going to start with you.
All right. That's fine. I'm going to.
Oh. Okay.
All right. Good. I went first last week, so Ben.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So Ben, go ahead with your.
Something happened there. You were breaking up.
Oh, that's weird. Okay.
Oh, my prediction?
Yes, prediction, please.
Well, the Browns are favored by 10.5 right now. Do you guys know that?
It's 10.5. Wow.
Ever since the Steelers announced that they were going to rest some starters,
mm-hmm.
and Tomlin was non-committal, other than Ben Roethlisberger will not play. In fact, what he said is Ben and maybe one or two more guys.
Yeah. Oh, he's not kidding. He knows who he's sitting.
And
but
the line literally moved 14 points based upon that press conference.
It's amazing what words will do for the gambler and all of us.
I don't know what's going to happen. The Browns apparently did open their facility today and did get a practice in. I keep looking for the injury report, and I have not seen it yet.
They were forced to close it this morning.
They were, but then they opened late in the afternoon.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I did not see a practice report today.
Ben didn't practice. There's a shock.
Yeah, well, is it Wednesday? Oh, well.
Yeah. He's not going to practice this week, man. No. You know it.
No.
It's just my gut.
Yeah.
I just think the Browns are brownsing their season at the end. I mean, they blew it. They blew it to the fucking 1-13 Jets last week.
Yeah, yeah.
I know whatever wide receivers, yada yada, but the strength of their game is their running game. The strength of their team is their running game.
It is.
They should have stomped the living shit out of the Browns, and they were down 20-6 at one point. I was like, what the hell? Where did that come from?
I believe Mayfield threw it 53 times despite not having any of his receivers.
Despite not having any wide receivers. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's so Brownsy. It's so Brownsy. And like I mentioned before, I think Mason's going to have a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. Mm-hmm. I know the defense is going to have a chip on his shoulder. I am concerned that Tomlin is going to say, yeah, Cam and Tuitt, you're not playing because I need you guys to playoffs. And if that happens, it's going to kind of mess things up a little bit with my prediction here. But I am going to say something a little similar to where I was last week. I'm going to say Steelers 24, Browns 21. And the Browns will have been knocked out of the playoffs. They will have played Pittsburgh with the playoffs on the line and lost to a backup quarterback 2 years in a row, which is peak Browns.
Indeed it is. Ian, your prediction, sir.
Okay, before I get to my predictions, I looked it up, and Ben was in that 2008 game sandwiched between Willie McGinnis and DeQuell Jackson and laid on the turf for 15 minutes before being carted off.
15?
15. It said nearly. The article says lay on the turf for nearly 15 minutes.
Yeah, well, he should definitely play this week, Ian. Shut the fuck up.
Get him out there.
Yeah. The other note from the ESPN article is, classic Troy. Pro Bowl safety Troy Polamalu was determined to play until the end, sneaking onto the field after Tomlin thought he had pulled him.
Yes, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, going into the huddle. You're out. I did forget about that. That was awesome.
I did. That's right.
That was also Romeo Crennel's last game as Browns head coach. As the Steelers do. And
there have been a lot of Browns coaches who've been fired after their last game versus the Steelers.
There have
Like immediately. A lot of them during the middle of the season.
A lot of them on the bus ride home.
I don't get that. It's like, oh, okay, and I am not saying it is funny, okay, but I'm not saying the Browns were right to fire all those coaches because, I mean, let's be honest. Stefanski's not a bad coach, and I don't think he's going to get fired.
He's done a fine job. I think he's done a fine job.
By any stretch of the imagination. But there have been a lot of coaches where it's like a knee-jerk reaction with the Browns. They're like, oh, yeah, one and done. Bye, you got to go. Which reminds me, Ian.
Yes.
Browns are not going to fire their coach this year. You probably should set a calendar reminder to change your furnace filter.
Usually you do it whenever they fire a coach. That is true.
That's right.
That is true. You're right that Stefanski has not been bad, but let's also not cut corners here. That the Browns are the only team in the AFC that has a winning record and a negative point differential. Somehow they are 10-5 and have a negative 13 point differential.
What the fuck is that about?
Well, they got blown out by us. They got blown out by the Ravens.
By Baltimore.
And they have a bunch of really close wins over really bad teams where bad teams just couldn't stop the run at the end of the game. If you remember, the Cowboys nearly stormed back on them from a big deficit.
The Jaguars only lost to them by 2.
The Jaguars only lost by 2. The Texans only lost to them by 3. So they've had some close, a lot of really close wins, and their win over the Giants 2 weeks ago, the 14-point win, I think tied their biggest victory of the season. They had a 14-point win over Washington early in the year. And I think those are their only 2 wins by double digits. Yeah. So they've had a lot of close calls against bad teams that they've basically closed out at the end because the other team couldn't stop the run, and the run is what they do well. So Cleveland is, I mean, if you want to talk about an overrated good team, having a negative point differential and being +5 in wins is really a candidate for a regression to the mean kind of thing.
Next season, I agree with you.
Yeah.
So what's your prediction for Sunday?
So, all right, my prediction is Steelers 20-17. We have surprisingly not had any games this season, either for or against, come down to a last-second field goal, either for us or against us. So I kind of feel like we're
Titans. Is that the one that we missed? Yeah.
They would have tied, though. That's
right. They would have tied. You're right. You're right.
Yeah, we haven't had a game-winning field goal attempt, I'll say. So yeah, I kind of feel like we're due for a game like that. And, why not? 20-17 Steelers. Mason Rudolph can join the likes of Landry Jones and Duck Hodges of backup quarterbacks that have
Charlie Batch.
Charlie Batch.
Yeah. I like the way you guys are going. You both have 3-point wins. I will also go that way as well. I'll say Steelers 18-15. I have no idea why I'm choosing such weird numbers. But
it just kind of a par 3 golf course.
Well, it just kind of has a feel to me where you're going to see field goals, maybe a 2-point conversion here or there. Teams get desperate. What do you know? So that's what I'll say. And yes, Mason will get his revenge, if you will. So, all right. Thanks to Ellie for joining us in the beginning, and thanks to you, the listeners, and everything else. And we hope everybody has a great new year. And believe me, we are all very, very glad to put 2020 in the rearview mirror for any number of reasons. And please be safe and healthy and all that good stuff if you're going out and let's just say having a good time tomorrow night. Just do the right things, and that way you can be back to listen to the show next week, because we just don't want to lose any listeners. That wouldn't be good. Anyway, so for Ben and for Ian, this is Steel Dead signing off on the Steel City Blitz Steelers podcast, presented by DEK Roofing Incorporated of South Florida. And hey, go Steelers.
Ravens suck.